Hi, Mary Mentors. This is a quick video of how to use Mint and the tricks and traps that you might get hung up on. So I'm going to take you through Mint and give you a quick overview. So if you want to add any accounts, you simply go to Here Accounts. We're here on Overview, and you click this gear shift. And if you have an Apple Pay credit card, that doesn't really work with Mint right now. I'm sure it will in the future, but it won't pull in the individual transactions. But most big banks will pull in the transactions. And to add any account, you just click here and say add, and then like Chase Bank, for example, that's my bank, and then you'll find it. And then sometimes you have to go over to your bank account to verify it. Now, since we're already here, a couple cool things are, let's say you have all your accounts connected at Chase, and you have a savings account and a checking account and a business account, but you don't want to see your business account. You can just go here to hide, and you can have specific things hidden from everywhere on Mint or just specific places. This helps because, like, for example, I have a business and I don't want to see my business transactions on my personal spending, but all my accounts are connected. Now, if there's something that does not have an account, but you want to track it, let's say you made an investment of $1,000 to a friend's business and they don't have, there's no way to really track that. You can click here under add a property, and it could be like a cash or other, and you can just manually add it. So then let's go back to overview. Once you have everything that you want added, you then go over to budgets to set up your budget. Now, there's an interesting thing about Mint. Right now, it's February 17th. There's no March. I cannot create the March budget until March 1st. It won't appear. And I also cannot change any of the budgets after the month is closed. So I would not be able to fiddle with any of these budgeting numbers, like groceries. I guess we spent $1,000 and we budgeted 700. I could move the transactions around, but I could not change the amount that I budgeted. You only can do that before the month closes. So if you're creating a budget, all you do is you go to here to add budget, and you add whatever category you want. Let's say you have an auto payment. So you go here, auto payment, there it is under auto payment. Now, if you don't see your category, you can always add a category. For example, in Rich Girl Academy, we have Bounty. So I have Chixie Magic's Bounty. That's my nickname, Chixie Danger, Chixie Magic. So I just added the category. There it is, and date night and my husband's bounty. Now, you'll have to hit save when you do that, and then refresh the whole screen before you're able to add it to the budget, else it won't recognize it. It won't remember that you created that category. Then if you want to delete a budget, you simply click Edit Details and delete this budget. All these things, these little data right here, I'm not a big fan of. It's saying, let's say you have auto insurance and it's $1,000, and over the course of each month, it comes up to $80. All these rules make it much more complicated and start rolling the $80 over until you get to the time when you use the auto insurance. I'm not a big fan of that. I like it if the auto insurance is $1,000 and you pay it once a year, you just put $1,000 in the month that it happens. The rest gets really confusing. Now, I want to tell you something special. You'll see here I budgeted $8,017, and it looks like I spent $5,296. That is not true, because anything down here in this everything else category, this 577, is not counted. I would have to add it to this to get the real true spending as to date, so to speak. The goal is really to get this everything else category empty and have these things flow into your budget. Like you'll see one as a reimbursable expense for my business. That's why it's not in my budget. I purposely left it there because I will pay my business will pay it, and that will net zero. Credit card transfers, anytime you pay off your credit card, it would go there. And since I have no credit card debt, that's fine for it. Else I would be double counting the payments. Let me not gloss over that. If you have no credit card debt, you pay your bill in full each month, you don't count the payment to your credit card because you would be double counting the purchase. For example, if I buy a pair of jeans, it would be under clothing. I would put that jean purchase under Chixie clothing. If I then put the credit card payment to pay off that bill under credit cards, I would be paying twice for the same purchase in my budget. So only add credit cards to your budget if you are carrying a balance and paying past debts. This cash, this ATM cash for me is going back in the account, and so it will wash to a zero. I have it here with me. So again, that's why it's hanging out there. And this just tells me what this can be a little confusing. Here on the left-hand side of the screen is exactly what I have spent when I add in the everything else category. And here on the right is what I projected I would spend. You see, and I'm supposed to have about 1,000 left over. The next important thing is to go over to transactions. Now, this is how you categorize the things into your budget. Now, special note here. If there is something that is grayed out, you'll see all these things grayed out. That means they haven't cleared yet. And if you try to recategorize something that hasn't cleared, it often defaults back to the original mint category. Like Bonavita is Chixie, that's a wine store. So that is that is wine. But let me see something. If it's like fresh food, that's probably a grocery store. So it's not really my husband's Bounty. So when it clears and turns black instead of gray, then we will recategorize it. Now here, you want to categorize the things that go into the right category, like Trees deposit. This is under income. This is part of my income for the month. And I added a category, Trees deposit, just like I added my husband's category, Matt deposit. Let's say though, I want to split a transaction. Let's say I went to, this is a perfect example. I went to CVS and I bought coconut milk and home supplies. So I use this little fork right here and it will split the transaction, and I can keep splitting up to as many things, and I just rename what category I want each expense to go under. There's no baby supplies. And you can also, because our mind forgets so quickly, where is that? You can put a little note of what it was for. I thought I did, but I guess I didn't there. Let's see. No. Right here on notes. Now here, when we're in the notes, you also can make a rule, but careful with the rules. You want it to always happen. When I go to CVS, it's not always groceries. So that's not a good example of a rule. A good example of a rule would be Whole Foods. This is always groceries for us. So we could say, oh, I guess that's not true. That my husband bought beer and we have to put alcohol in our bounties. So that's not a good example. Let me think of an always something. Okay, I guess everything can change. Wendy's, that is Bounty, but it was my Bounty. Anyway, if you have a rule, like you go to the grocery store and you only buy groceries at the grocery store, and you want Mint to remember that, you see how the rule doesn't show up sometimes? In order to get the rule to show up, you have to change it to something. We'll change it to financial. Now we'll change it, edit details. Let's move it to groceries. Mint can be a little finicky. See, now I can make a rule. Always rename as groceries. which that's a pretty good rule. That's usually always groceries. So I told you about splitting a transaction. So that's how you label all those things. Now, if you want to kind of see your trends, here's a cool little trick. If it's red, that means you went over your budget. If it's green, it means you didn't. But if you want to see all your spending for the year, you can highlight them all and look. We're not too far over for the past, whatever it is, 11 months. We budgeted $9,000 for groceries and we spent $9,800. So that's pretty good. See, so you can start to see how close you are to your targets. Then trends are kind of fun because trends give you an idea of how much you're spending over time. So you have over time here, and you can see we're doing better with our spending, but I bet that's taxes or something. We pay taxes out of our income. But let's see if I wanted to see how good I was doing with my bounty. I would just type in my bounty. And now these are only Teresa's bounty charges for the past 12 months. And I could do it for this month. So just this month, how I spent it, or this year, or last year. And then it will tell me how much I've spent. On average, I spent $358, which is great because my bounty is supposed to be $300. You can do the same with your income over time or by category. Also, your expenses by category. It's cool to see by category. There's this fun thing that I do. It says the pie doesn't lie. Obviously, this looks very bad, but we invest via our 401k. And if you invest from your take-home pay, you want to see where the financial piece of pie is. If we weren't investing in our 401k, this would look terrible because you would see that there's no investments. The financial piece is not there. But this gives you a really clear visual of where your money's going and if it's valuable to you. The last thing that I'll tell you about here is the credit cards. And credit cards can be kind of confusing. Let me see when we paid one. You see how this credit card payment says $137.52 and it's green? It gets really confusing. This looks like I got a credit of $137, but it's really just moving money from one account to another. Think of it as a savings and a checking account. And that's hypothetically say your credit card is your savings account. It'd be looking like you deposited $137.52 into your savings account or into the credit card account to then, of course, pay the bill. So this always goes under transfers. It's just confusing. When you put anything under transfers, you can't see it anywhere. It won't show up anywhere. And any green credit card payments, unless it's a return in fees, you always want to go under transfers, else it will look like you spent less than you really did. And again, since we only use our credit cards monthly and pay off the balance in full, the actual $137 payment to that credit card was also under transfers. And that is how you mint. And if you use it regularly, Mint will make you a mint. Happy minting.